Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop along Mopars.com. Paying no attention to the batteries at the bottom of the frame. Those are crewing. I'm collecting all my dead batteries. I'm playing around with a little cheap battery tester from Harbor Freight. But what we've got going on right now, I was out here super late last night, just right before midnight. It got colder and colder and colder. The forecast was totally wrong. I stepped outside the door when I finally left around like 11:50, and I nearly fell because there was ice. And that's from the sprinkler running, and it was about 19 outside. I think it was like 30 something in here, but had a good time, so I forced myself to keep going. That said, I am trying to clean the shop up, trying to get organized. A ton of stuff has come in because of Black Friday sales, and as you might have guessed it, a lot of that stuff goes towards the goal of getting cleaned up and better organized. So we're going to jump right into this. This is a tool haul from Olsa Tools. Now, if you're thinking like, Olsa, what's going on? Has he ever had anything from them? Let's try to figure it out. They've gotten more into tools recently, but kind of what I knew them from, of course, was their bit holders, and if you recall, we've showcased these several times. This is just all Phillips number 2 and holders and a center punch. That's a PB Swiss center punch, that one. Good knurling on it. But I've got those, man, probably 2, maybe 3 more strung out across the shop in strategic locations. It's great because they're magnetic. But what I've got going on now is the need for more, and that is where this comes in. Now, I will warn you right now, the way Olsa does things currently, you're going to see like the magnetic hex bit organizer spelled out there, and then you're thinking like, black. Why would you get black? That doesn't seem like something you would do. And I didn't. It is a deal probably just to save money, because if you don't know, cardboard and custom printed boxes are crazy expensive. But if you spin it around to the back, it's sort of like they do computer towers and stuff. You'll have a heart attack. Like if you order a special color, or you really wanted white, or you really wanted black, you'll get a box and it'll show white or black, and you're like, no, they shipped the wrong one. And then there's like some random little dot somewhere, and it says indicates color inside. Well, that's what they've done here. If you see right there, you have orange, and that's because I ordered an orange one. And I don't know the order of videos that you're going to see this in, but I guess we'll have to make this after, because I was going to showcase this thing on the item that we're not speaking of right now. But we'll just say, hey, I could use my little 4-drawer cart about. We could totally do that. The price point on this thing, pretty reasonable, $18.87. Seems like, yes, they could sell it probably for like $10, but there it is. And again, if you color code your bits, if orange is your color, if you've got another color that you specifically love over all the other colors, these become a really good option for you. Essentially, you've seen blue, and that's what I've brought in the past. You've got orange, you've got green, you got yellow, just kind of the rare color there. Purple, which is probably the least likely of the colors available that they have that you would find, right? So if you're always trying to do something different, or purple's your color, there you go. And then of course red and black. Included is an Olsa Tools sticker, white with red font, and then a thank you. Let's see. Oh yeah, 10% off your order when you subscribe to the newsletter. And there's a QR code. So that's what it is. It's a bit holder, and you do not have to just put standard bits in it. You can put extra long bits, like your 49, 89, whatever you want to do. Bit holders fit anything that's like bit centric is going to work right here. You can get like a socket adapter. That's probably what that's for in the middle. All sorts of things. The sky is the limit. There's really not much else to say. Why orange? Why blue? Why purple? Number one, just the aesthetics. If your toolbox is blue, you probably want a blue one. If blue's your favorite color, and you've got a black box, you probably don't care. You want to get your favorite color. The colors also, aside from just pure aesthetic preference, come in for organization. Let's say that blue is for my Phillips bits. Orange could be for Torx. You could do green for slotted. I'm not sure why you'd have slotted bits that would require that, but hey, you never know. You could do purple for like pentalobe, crazy, whatever you need to do. That way, instead of you like picking this up and you've got like 37 bits or whatever it is, and you're like, oh, row 2, cell 3, there it is. You just know, like, okay, this is my Torx set, and then lime green is like your posi, and yellow can be hex, that's metric, and red can be SAE. Whatever you need to do, Those are all options. That's why I'm always a fan when places sell colors, right? Like this would work just the same if it was black every single time. But then if I want to do all hex bits, right, in SAE and metric, even if I divide them and I put SAE here and metric here, it's kind of a problem, right? And then if you ever have someone over or somebody helping you, they're like, oh, which one's which? And they have to pull them out. Color coding is a big deal. So we'll try to maybe showcase some of these in action here later on in the video. But price point again, $1887. Also $1887, which again is why I said, you know, I could probably be sold a little less, is this guy right here. And just judging by the box comparison, right, you know, we assume the box the size to the product, it's way more real estate, right? Like you could fit basically 2 of them, you know, and then 4 if you stack them like that. This is exactly what it looks like. It is a magnetic socket holder. This one is designed for 1/2-inch drive. Kind of the same concept, but for sockets. Again, is it black? Nope. This one is blue, but you'll note above blue it has SAE. The other option there would be metric. I think you can get these blank. That way, you know, if you don't really know what sizes you have, or you look at this and you're like, I don't have near that many sockets. You know, I just want a blank one so I can stack what I do have. If you want to use it for some other nefarious purpose, it's not sockets, but has a similar size profile, you can do that. But if you want the size profiles, you can do this. Let's get it out of the bag here. There's our sticker that fell cascading down there. I have never, true story, had a socket organizer like this. This is sort of, that's why there's this. You save money if you buy sets, 1/4, 3/8, half, even like SAE and metric. The more you buy, the more you save. So if you're thinking like, hey, why didn't you do that? You seem thrifty. I got to make sure I like it. I'm trying to figure out what I like and then what works best, and then combine those two with what I like and what works best. So if I like this the best, but it doesn't fit a drawer profile, or it makes things too tall, but there's something that I like almost as well, that's when we have the internal debate and we decide on what we want to use where and why. So the catch here, and again, this might bother some of you. Let's say you just have like the starter set and it served you well for years, and you're like, man, I'd really like to, you know, get it organized a little better. And you see this and you think, that's perfect. Well, what if your 1/2-inch drive socket set, you know, you start at say 1/2 inch or 7/16 or even 9/16, and it goes up to like 1 inch or 1 1/16. What are you to do with these spare holes? That will drive some people absolutely insane. Like, let's say that you just go 3/8 or 7/16 to 1 inch. That seems fairly feasible, right? You got 3 slots here all the way up to 1 1/4, and you've got 3/8 sitting over here. So you got 2 schools of thought. Number 1, the people are gonna get this and just not care. Number 2, there's people that are gonna be just plagued every time they open their box, and they're gonna have to go out and buy a 3/8 drive. And sometimes, depending on what socket set you have, the manufacturer, they might be gone, they might be out of business, the set might have changed, the way they're stamped, if they're laser etched, the chrome plating is inferior or better. You run into all sorts of issues. So like, let's say that you're running, you know, 6-point snap-on and they're from the 90s. It's different now, you know, and the good news there, you could probably at least populate this out. But the downside to it is simply, if you have a partial set which works for you, like obviously that's why you wouldn't have the 1 1/4, you don't need it. Or you don't have 3/8 and 7/16 and 1/2-inch drive, because you're like, why would I ever use that? You know, I would use 3/8 or even 1/4 inch on that stuff. That's fine, but for some people it's like, it looks like something is missing and it will just destroy them internally. You know, they have this mental struggle every time they slide their drawer open and see vacant spaces. Because let's say that you use your 3/4, you get some 1/2-inch bolts, you know, on some control arms you swap out. 3/4 socket isn't there, you're like, whoa, where is that? And you slide under the car, you can't find it, and then you get on the creeper, turn on a light, and you see it resting on the K-member, and you retrieve it and you're thrilled. But then you've got these vacancies, and it's just, like I said, some people can handle it, some people can't. Some people, it's an excuse to buy more tools. Other people, it's reason to avoid this. Or buy one that's not populated, but then you still have the plugs, even though they don't correspond with numbers. So take that for what you will, but the way this works is sort of a 2-tower deal. This is not like shallow and deep by design. This is literally your smallest size paired with the largest size, and then here's kind of like your equilibrium kind of a deal, right? So 3/8, 7/16, half, 9/16, 5/8, 11/16, 3/4, 13/16, 7/8. Then we've got AD, I assume that's like accessory drives, like a universal joint, some stubby extension, like 1.5" type of a thing, probably clear. 5/16, 1 1.16", 1.125", 3/16", 1.25". So, some people might have a problem. I'm not going to lie. It bothers me that 3/8 is here and not here, because I read left to right. Everything I do is left to right. When I stock things, it's left to right, barring, unique circumstances. So, I personally would have preferred 3/8 over here. And then, of course, right here, the 1.25" would have to be there, and then that would go into sending. But it's then like a snake, like your fantasy football draft, right? You're like, I didn't get the number 1 pick. Sometimes it's better to draft 8th or 10th or 12th, and then you have the 12th pick and the 13th pick, and you stack, like mid-range players. But it's just kind of all personal preference at that point in time. That's sort of the downside to this design, is also the pro to this design. But like I said, I've never had one. I've never used one. We're just kind of trying to test things out. But again, the fact that this is 1887 makes me think we could probably do a little better on that guy. So personal thoughts there. But I also want to say these are current prices as of this video. I bought these on Black Friday. Stuff was stupid cheap. There were all kinds of discounts and sales. The more you bought, the more you saved. But again, at the time of this recording, I'm going by what I see on their website. Now, also sticking with the rail or socket organization, I guess we just gave away what we're doing. We're going to come in with an item that is $3 cheaper. It is just a 1/2" drive socket rail. You can see it right here, and it is also in orange. Now, this is one of those deals. I'm going to be totally straightforward and honest with you. I kind of know what I'm doing, but like I always say, like color variance online is a very real thing. You almost have to see it in person. I don't have a way of seeing this in person without buying it and bringing it in. And while that looks pretty good, I'm not going to lie, that's like a very attractive rail. It's aluminum. There's no magnet on this one. The end caps are here. I think, what do we have? 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So 16 sockets. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 plus accessories. So 16 a piece, $3 cheaper. No magnet on this one. You can pull these, you can add them if you want this to have 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2". You can do that, and you obviously just pull the plugs, pull the rails, the whatever socket holders you want to call them. It's all modular essentially. You just have to buy the extra pieces, which are available. The downside to this one, while that looks really good, it's aluminum and it's anodized, and it's orange anodized aluminum. Looks great, but it's not quite this shade of orange. This shade of orange is what I was going for. To be fair, their website does not convey that this looks anything remotely like this. To also be fair, and I've tried many times, cannot find anything anodized that's like remotely close to like the vitamin C Hemi orange shade that I'm going for, right? It's almost always more like copper penny. So, this is a deal. If you were like going for this, you're not going to be happy. If you're going for this with a bit holder, you're not going to be happy there. But 1587 rails only. I kind of thought I'd bought that magnetic. Apparently I did not, but it is what it is. Now, going along with the rail theme and magnetic, we're going to come in, what is a video without something to do with screwdrivers? And we're looking at 2487. This is actually, believe it or not, the most expensive item that we bought. Again, I will link these down below as I do in most videos. I make nothing off of this. It's for your convenience. Check this one out. Same type of a setup with the rail. It's actually a different design, and I guess that's in part because the clips need to be a little bit different of a design, a little bit more robust. If you're sitting there thinking, what in the world is that? Well, it's a screwdriver holder. And the catch with this one, it's got a really nice felt backing here. but it is magnetic. So case in point, if I set this down, you know, it's sticking to the table, right? Nothing super crazy, but it's decently strong. It should hold the screwdrivers in place even if you were to populate it in its entirety. I don't know that we're going to be able to swap these over just because the rails are such a different design. This cap is off. We're going to set it in 15/16 or inch and 3/16. We'll take this and let's see here. I am not sure if my little fingers are going to be able to pull that off. I kind of think this might fit. Let's see here. We'll go to the Knipex. I hope you've got eye candy down there to enjoy staring at. While I do this, what do you use? And have you used any of this Olsa stuff? If you have, what do you like in the best and why? Is anyone else in my boat where you always want like an anodized? I love aluminum. I love anodized aluminum. I don't love the way orange anodizing turns out. I feel like somebody, if there was enough demand, or like somebody at home could homebrew it and just get the mixture just perfect, you know, type of a deal, and kind of get that color. But clearly no one has done that thus far. I'm gonna grab the old Vihas here and see if I can do this without scuffing this thing too terribly bad. So this would work better if you weren't filming a video while also trying to make it happen. And my hands are a little cold, nothing like last night though, so I'm not going to complain too terribly much. Got her out. We have achieved greatness here. We got the socket rail. Let's see. It's just hauntingly close, and I'm not sure how it's going to pan out, but I've got it pretty much on there. Okay, so this is a big deal, because if you're investing in this most expensive item and you're like, man, if only I could get, I don't know, like maybe you want to put your bit adapter here. Well, now you can. So I assume the 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2 would be the same profile. That's not the easiest thing to slide around. I mean, like, case in point, take a look at this one, how well it's going to slide. Radically different than what I just created, but it is something that can be done. Now let's yank that off, grab this guy, and see what we can do here. So we're going to come into the standard 1/2-inch drive socket rail. I'm going to stick this up to my face. Boom. Cool deal. So you can see what I'm saying though. It's a bit of a different profile. If you, man, that's terrible. It almost looks like a dog bone, right? And then if you look at this one, it's more of like a Space Invader, you know, type of a thing going on. It's just, I can't get it far enough away from the camera. But they are completely different looking profiles, but fortunately for us, salvageable. So what else I have is just exactly what you saw there, but in a different color. Any guesses? This is a safe anodized option for me because I rarely see it and don't like it. Screwdriver holder, again, 2487 anodized blue. Man, does blue look good when it's anodized, right? Or blue anodized on aluminum. It's one of those things, I've never been disappointed. It doesn't matter the brand, it doesn't matter if it's expensive American-made stuff, it doesn't matter if it's cheap copies made in China. Aluminum, when it's anodized in blue, it's very consistent. Sometimes you have like a very light color, that's kind of different, but if it's like a typical blue, it looks really good. So that is what I've brought in from Olsa Tools. This is like the first half of the video, right? What I'm going to do now is populate these just a little bit. Obviously, I don't want to go waste a ton of time filling these up, but I want you to kind of see what these would be like in a real world scenario. So that's what we'll do. We'll kind of compare and contrast these oranges on the US General orange. I'll kind of showcase this with like a black toolbox, sort of what I have in mind, and it'll hopefully give you a good feel for what to expect from these Olsas in contrast with a box color you may have. Alright, sample number 1 is not what you're looking at. That's sample number 2. Sample number 1 is here, the Bit Organizer. just kind of to give you an idea of some of the stuff you could do. We got the front row populated in number 2 Phillips. We got little 49mm power bits, and we got 89s in the back. So obviously ascending fashion there makes sense to me. Will this clear your toolbox? Hopefully so. You might have a drawer deep enough for that. Otherwise, those are going to go to the wayside. The 49s, you should be fine. But this just, again, kind of gives you an idea of what you can do with them. I have not tested this since we did the last one. Again, my fingers are here, right? So it is a decent hold right there, and that's what that would be like partially populated. We'll take a look at the boxes later. I decided we'd bench test them first. Full disclosure, these are metric sockets, but they're what were easiest for me to get to. I'll also say these aren't really happening. They're not like the way they're designed, they're not really fitting in those slots. We could potentially move them and make it happen, so I guess we'll do that. But otherwise, everything drops in. Now, one of the things we haven't hit on with this is, obviously, if you think of a rail back here where you could have them physically touch, again, a little space is preferable so you can get your fingers in and actually pick up what you want. You can easily argue, like, this is a lot of wasted space when it adds up, right? It doesn't seem bad initially, but it's, take like 1/8 of an inch every slot and add it up, and you got a couple of inches here, right? So again, a lot of this is personal preference and space considerations, but this gives you an idea of what the socket organizer would look like. If I were to take this and flip it, I've not tested this either. We'll give it a good shake. So we lost one. I would say that's pretty good, and it was not one of the biggest ones either. So pretty sweet little setup there. Again, we'll take a look at it populated. This guy we're going to have to hold off until we have this clear, because I'm going to use the exact same sockets on it. Spoiler alert, you can compare and contrast the difference, but I do want to show these on the boxes. Before we do that, let me take you over and just showcase what I've done here. Alright, so this is not where you would keep these. This is just above my screwdriver drawer, and I was populating it here for 2 reasons. 1, to see how it worked, and 2, to see if it was going to hold. It is holding. It was on that whole time we were at the bench doing things. I can say there's a couple of things I'm not a huge fan of with this setup, and it's mainly going to have to do with the clips. So if we come over here to the little Matco made in Taiwan, which wasn't advertised that way, you can see we've got the clip there. Now, the way this is working really good for me, if I don't go here, but I go to the midpoint and come down without stabbing myself, that's a really positive fitment. I like that. The problem is, especially like these hex bolsters on the Mac and the Matco, they tend to want to go to the back slot, and then, like, look at the SK right there. That's a very positive fit. The Tangs are positive, the Texton's positive. The Philo, again, it doesn't want to ride in that groove. And when they get out of that center section, then they become floppers, right? And so we want this, like rock solid rigidity there. We don't want Mr. Floppy here banging around. So that's a negative, and then that also leads me to believe that, like, over time, I think these would wear fairly quick. Totally could be wrong. That's all projection on my part. But what are you going to do with these? A lot of people, yes, it makes sense since they're magnetic to stick them on the side of the box, a lid that's going to shut, the back side of a lid because it's just junkers and you don't care about them, whatever it might be. There's probably more people than you realize that would lay this flat in the box, and this is simply to be their organizer in a drawer, right? So what I'm going to do now is we'll take this over to an orange box. You can kind of see the contrast between that, but I just had it here and I thought, well, let's just go ahead and roll with it, show everyone what it's like. So fully populated though, and again, we just did the stagger method here. If you don't want to do that, if you want, like all Phillips down here, whatever you want to do, you can make it happen. You could also space these a little bit. Note the way I have done this, if you wanted to buy a couple extra, like a bag or whatever they sell them in, you could easily fit like 2 more drivers in this scenario. So that's what it looks like hanging. We're going to go ahead and put it on the side of a box. Take a look at it there. All right, running over to an unpopulated cart. You can see in this case we've got screwdrivers falling from the thing we put on the side, which is not good. But in terms of the bits, this is a situation. We've got tons of space here, so whatever we wanted to stack, we could even have longer. Again, those tall ones in the back are 89 millimeter. If we, one thing you got to think, like if you couldn't clear your lid there, you can come in and do stuff like this. It's not ideal, but it keeps them in place. You'd probably want the tall ones on the bottom if you were to do that. If it's cumbersome for you to come and extract the bits, you can just simply pull it off. But that orange is really, really close to what we have there. Now, let's go ahead and come to the side of the box, which dropped the Mac driver. And right there, again, I can't really get much of a better angle without running into stuff. This is what it looks like. And it's doing a decent job. Again, the biggest issue is just if you're a stickler for the color. That is the US General orange versus the Olsa Tools orange. And again, there's complementary colors, but you might just go black. That would probably be your best choice. Unless, of course, you just love orange or that isn't a big deal to you. But you would probably want that position a little differently. Again, this is what was easy for me to get to. But it's a situation like, there's the Mac down there, right? Try not to get chain in the side of my skull. Like, it's flopping, and then I don't know what caused that to fall so long, but this is where I want this to be, and it just has a tendency to slip back, and I'm not a fan of that, right? The fitment in that scenario. But what we will do is we will get this guy. We'll see if we can slide him back in there, and I think I'll go ahead and put those both in drawers. This cart is a little different because the drawers are all super deep. So while it's here, while it's populated, we'll see what it looks like in the drawer for those of you that go that route. All right, I thought I hit record and apparently I didn't. So the camera timed out on me, and I'm glad it did because I didn't want to lose any more than we already had. Here it is. This is just kind of a fictitious populated drawer scenario for you. Again, 3.5-inch depth. You can see those 89 millimeter bits clear just fine. So again, you can just stack those all the way, whatever you want to do. You can lay them down if that's what you want to have happen. That is no issue in this drawer. In shorter drawers, the 89s aren't going to happen. 49s you should probably always be okay with. Again, the color match there, really good. It's not quite the same shade, but it's not objectionable. Whereas the anodized, it's kind of a clash of colors, right? So when we look at this rail, we've done a couple of things here. Number one, we've eliminated the issue of the Mac falling out of the bottom again, right? And cascading to the ground or being lost forever, rolling away. But we've reduced our footprints. However, you could just lay these out in the box without a holster, without the rail, essentially. Is it worth the money to have the rail? I think for most people that are trying to maximize their space and storage, it's probably yes. It's especially more intriguing if you frequently have to come, and I mean this is a bad example because it's primarily number 2 Phillips. There's a couple slotted in there, but let's say this was a complete set of drivers. Pick your brand, pick your poison, pick your bits. If this is your box and you roll it through the shop or you get to the job site, whatever it might be, you're still able with this to easily pick up and extract your entire set and go to where you can't necessarily roll your box, right? So you can have it close to where you're working, but then this can come off with you and go to the job site. Particularly, if you're repairing the same things over and over again and you need 3 sizes of Torx, number 2 Phillips, a posi for the electronics, whatever, you can set this up to be as practical as it can for what you do. So that's really, I think, where it shines. The other thing, if these were loose, just laid out, they're going to roll a little bit. Obviously, they're not going to be a ton of front to back motion, but side to side, yes. And then once they start rolling side to side, they spin out of control. Especially, again, is your box going to be stationary or is it going to be going everywhere? That again is where you hey, that's worth the money to me. But yeah, that's what they look like in the drawer. I think what we'll do now is hop back over and we'll take a look at the blue equivalent. Don't feel blue. We've got organized sockets. So yeah, just for the sake of color, coordination and matching again, this is the US General blue, obviously. We've got the Olsa blue. Really nice little setup. Complements one another really well. Question now is, let's say that this was going to be frequently used. All you use is half-inch SAE full of metric sockets for whatever reason. Is it something that can stick to the side of the box? Let's find out. One socket, I think that's the same one, but check it out. If this was kind of like your go-to setup, let's say you just use this all the time and you needed it outside or wanted it outside, there you go. And again, let's grab this one. It would roughly be 7/8. I'm not sure what it is with that side. That's the same one that comes out every time for some reason. But yeah, I mean, the possibilities are endless. Let's go ahead now and populate the blue screwdriver rail, see how these two complement one another. Oh, you're gonna like this one. So wait till you see it coming into frame. Oh yeah, talk about color coordination. Now that is a sweet setup. Beloved 3K Pro Turns. It was a cheaper VL handle that I still absolutely love. Looks really, really good with that rail. Went ahead, we got varying shades of blue just to kind of give you a rough idea of what you'd be looking at. But yeah, looks great. Again, same issue, just sometimes certain shank sizes and everything, you know, slide through. Sometimes they want to go back, sometimes they don't. There's the, can't go too far over, you got stuff, tool hauls, which you can't see just yet. Goes together really well. What we'll do now is pull this out, stick it on the side, and then we will take that and we will throw those sockets on that orange rail. Let you compare and contrast that one. All right, there it is, kind of real world scenario. Picture, you know, your roll cart, your box, whatever you got. Actually, I mean, just the wall in a metal building. Pretty good, pretty functional. Again, the magnet holding doesn't seem to be the problem. It's kind of the plastic clips that you might struggle with, particularly, you know, if you're trying to pull one out and you boggle the other one and it comes and it tails, you know, you get into all kinds of scenarios. In the box as a rail to keep things intact, I think it's a lot safer of a bet. You'd have the same problems, they would just be mitigated by default of having something to protect it from falling. But yeah, I mean, looks great. Can't complain at all about the aesthetics on this one. And there it is, going vertical. All right, so there is our orange rail. Again, sadly not magnetic on this one. I would have loved to have seen if this would hold because it is a lot of weight. These are pretty beefy sockets. They're Gadors. 6-point metric again. Kind of a skipping set from like 10 to 32 basically. So pretty impressive amount of weight on them. Again, being the fixed position, if you're somebody that likes to have the swivel or the ability to change things, the sizes I've got as OCD friendly as possible for you, sort of where you can see them at a backward tilting angle. But this is what they look like on the bench. I will tell you, with this socket set, 1/2 inch in size, and the range that we've got, I have 3 clips that I had to pull off. The good news with this design, where it's just that kind of, you know, plastic end cap, it just slides right off really easy. You're able to pull these off, go to town. But what I'm going to do is take this over to the box just so we have that aesthetic and you can kind of get a real world feel for what it would look like. All right, so there they are. I went ahead, I pulled the screwdrivers back in just to kind of get the full setup here. But that's it. That's about all there is to say. Again, the perk here, if you're modular, if you want it in a bag, it's not going to be magnetic. You can easily move it around and about. But keep in mind, they do have upgrades to this where you can kind of pair them. I just wanted to get some stuff in, test it out, and again, kind of see how color contrast works. There is the... oh, that got my blister there. There's the orange on the orange right there. But yeah, I'm getting really, really cold and hungry. I think I'm going to head in. Hopefully this kind of gives you a feel for, you know, the bit holder, which we brought in. This standard socket rail, the magnetic socket organizer, and of course, we got 2 shades of the screwdriver organizer. You can use this for other things, pretty much anything it will fit. Pliers might be pushing it. I'll say you're welcome to try things out. With that said, that's about all I have got. Again, I'll have everything linked down below. I make nothing off of that. It is solely for your convenience, if you will. So, LoneStarMopars.com. That is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all 3 at Lone Star Mopars. Again, if you have used any of these, if you've got great experiences, bad experiences, if you say, hey, I had those and found something better, or I was using this, then tried these from Olsa, love them. Whatever your story is, feel free to share it. That's the end goal, help as many people as possible. Essentially, so you can either just go out and buy this and be super happy and never have to question anything, and you don't have to do what I'm doing, bringing everything in, testing it, ultimately seeing what you like best and why. But as a benefit to my ever-ending curiosity, you will kind of get to see things as they come in, and we trickle through them and see what works best for us. So it'll vary person to person, preference to preference, but it is what it is. Once again, if you enjoyed it, leave a like, leave your thoughts on this. If you have not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. New tool videos every Saturday. We shoot for automotive content Wednesdays. Sometimes I don't have the time to make that happen. Sometimes we throw surprise, midweek tool update type of stuff, but typically Saturday, sometimes Wednesdays, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, Texas time, whatever you need to call it. If you subscribe and you ring the bell, YouTube just might notify you of the new uploads. Otherwise, you can follow along on social media or jump your charger across the creek while ringing the bell. Pretty much always does it. So with that said, hopefully you learned a little something, got some ideas, maybe found something you like, something you don't want to bring in, whether good or bad, as long as it benefits you or entertains you. That's the end goal. Thanks for watching. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. I'll catch you back here for more action from the shop.